Hello, I'm Matt Damour of the Link newspaper and 99% Media. And this is going to be the first video in a series of videos, I hope, basically looking at the issue of information and how much access we have to it in Canada. Now, we have a federal election coming up quite soon, and one of the critiques that I hear most often in terms of people complaining about democracy is the lack of transparency when it comes especially to the federal government, but also at the provincial level. Now, especially amongst younger voters who are maybe a little bit less engaged or a little bit more apathetic, supposedly, you hear a lot about not knowing how things are run, where money is being spent, and so on and so forth. But what you may not know is that actually the information about those questions is publicly available, and it's actually the law in Canada through access to information. Most people can simply request documents that answer some of these questions that I've raised. Now, I'm actually learning about this process myself, and I'm going to be filing my first access to information request. It's not going to be at the federal or the provincial level. It's actually going to be with the Montreal Police Department to get some information about their tactics and response last spring during the May Day evening protests. Police tactics were essentially divide and conquer. The riot police did come into the march, and I overheard one of the police officers refer to the tactic as a star formation. So they reformed in a star formation and basically split the march into two. And at that point, they did fire tear gas, multiple tear gas canisters in the direction of both halves of the march. So most likely they're trying to stop the back half of this group from joining the first half that was cut off at this intersection. Tear gas was deployed in this direction here, and then over there. Okay, yeah, that one's very close. Now, keep in mind that this is on the intersection of St. Catherine and McGill College Avenue in broad daylight on a Friday evening, so a lot of bystanders got caught in the crossfire. A lot of people who were just walking around shopping, not just protesters, and unfortunately I did see some children who got caught in the tear gas. I saw one man running away from the tear gas with a child in his arms, and she was obviously in a lot of distress and a lot of pain from having inhaled the tear gas and having made contact in her eyes. We also saw some restaurant patrons that were out on a terrace that were covering their mouths with napkins. So it was absolute chaos at that point, and it was quite indiscriminate in the people that it affected. And myself and a lot of journalists at the time wanted to know why that decision was made, who made it, and how exactly that worked. And I'm hoping that through an access to information request with the Montreal Police Department, I'll be able to get some of the answers to those questions. Now, in terms of actually filing these requests, it's not that complicated. It's simply a question of finding the right place to send your access to information request. You have to look up the department or the public institution and who's in charge of receiving these requests and making sure that you're sending it to the right place with the right forms and in a specific enough way that they actually know what documents it is you're looking for. Now, at the federal level, I believe it's about a $5 fee that has to be sent in with the request, and there might be additional charges down the road for printing documents or so on. But at the provincial and municipal level in Canada, there are no fees for making the request, but you might be asked to spend a little bit of money to make photocopies, or there might be additional fees that you'll find out about a little bit later on. So the plan for this video feature is going to be to track the process of my access to information request. Right now I'm going to be sending this off shortly through the mail to the Montreal Police Department. I've written a letter to the appropriate person, the appropriate department, and I've asked for very specific documents relating to reports of when the police intervened and who was in charge and why those decisions were made. So I have tried to keep it as specific as possible so that they don't get back to me and say, well, we need you to elaborate, we need a little bit more information about exactly what you're needing. Try to, get in front of those questions as soon as you can, even before you send off these documents. The next step, the next video, hopefully, which won't be in too much time, is going to be the letter that I get back from the Montreal Police Department, either denying my request, asking for additional information, advising me of any possible fees. So at that point, I'm going to make a second video documenting the process, and then hopefully by the end of this process, I'll be able to make a video where I actually follow up with the information that I was looking for and tell you a little bit about how I got from A to B to C. Another important thing to point out is, as I'm going to be sending this off, I actually have a Plan B, a second access to information request that I'm going to be sending off. Now, I'm not going to tell you too much about it. It's not going to the Montreal Police Department, and I'm going to keep that a little bit of a secret, and hopefully I don't have to use it, but the idea is that if my first one falls through, I have a second access to information request that I'll be able to follow up on for this video feature. I think this is an important thing to document because more and more in the news you're hearing complaints about the way the access to information process is handled. This is more at the federal level. There have been accusations that the process has become more closed off, that it's harder to get these kinds of documents, and that the process should be a little bit more streamlined, and that government departments shouldn't be so closed off to providing these documents. But hopefully we'll be able to get something useful out of this. So I look forward to following up on this, and I hope you are too.